Welcome everyone to this KuppingerCole event, the Cybersecurity Leadership Summit. And as Bertolt already announced, my opening keynote, a relatively short speech, will be about cybersecurity trends in the age of work from home. And yes, work from home is very related to the current COVID crisis. I will talk about how work from home affects cybersecurity, and I will also look a little bit at what else is hot in cybersecurity. But it's very clear we are in a challenging and to some respect also interesting time. And that is true for all of our life, and it's true for cybersecurity. And so when we look at the cybersecurity challenges and trends, I'd like to start a little bit about looking at why do we need to change the way cybersecurity is done. And here we have a couple of challenges, and the one we are aware for quite a while is there are more and more attacks. The attackers become more professional. It's really an industry we're faced with. So cybersecurity challenges are here to stay at the end of the day. We have the change to work from home and bring your own device. That was something which really sort of heavily affected what was happening over the past 8 or 9 months right now. So this immediate shift to work from home to a different work style, and also the needs very frequently to bring in your own devices. We have the other trend which also affects cybersecurity, which is cloud first. So we had this challenge of or have this challenge for quite a while that we don't live in our structured on-premise environment anymore, but it's really changing. And last but not least, the way we construct applications also is fundamentally changing. So this is this DevOps or DevSecOps, where we go for an agile development, where we go for agile applications, and where we really are needing to work with different security paradigms, because it's a totally different thing to protect a single application than to protect an agile environment where sort of containers pop up and go down. So a lot of changes. And on the other hand, we have different paradigms and technologies on hand to deal with cybersecurity. And first and foremost, there's this zero trust thing. So zero trust is not a technology. Zero trust is a concept. It's a paradigm which says, okay, we don't have that single entity like the firewall or whatever else anymore, which we can trust, and everything behind that device or in front of the device is secure, and we don't need to care much about it. This is not the fact anymore. In a world with cloud services, with bring your own devices, etc., there's not that single entity, that single place we can trust. So we need to adjust, but there's a lot of good thinking behind that. We have AI, which helps us in many areas. I'll touch this a little later. We see a huge uptake of what is called SOAR, security orchestration, automation, and response, which goes beyond what we did for many years, trying to analyze all the logs and all the events and figure out where anomalies and outliers are, towards really reacting on that, automating the reaction, responding to challenges. So getting better. And I think it's important. The more frequent attacks we have, the faster we must be in our reaction. And I see also a trend which is going beyond the experts. So cybersecurity affects every one of us. And we all know that the user itself is the most frequent point of attack. So phishing for getting access to a network is still the common way to start attacks. And so we need to involve everyone. And I believe also we can benefit from involving everyone, from broadening cybersecurity. So having said this, we are facing a couple of challenges in cybersecurity these days. One, which I believe, and I'll touch it again in a minute, is data security. At the end, I believe we're still too much focused on network security, on device security. But at the end, what do we really want to protect? What we want to protect is data, is information. These are our crown jewels for many organizations. That is what we want to protect. And So logically, we should put far more emphasis on data security beyond traditional network security, etc. We have all these new services in the age. When data governance, maybe data security, maybe back to work from home also. The point is, data started sprawling in the work from home world. New tools, new services, and again, these new services then, so everyone started using tools like Zoom, like Teams, like all the other collaboration tools from other vendors that also led to a situation where data resided in other places, where people communicated differently, where different devices were in. So clearly a challenge. Maybe it's hard to say which is the biggest challenge, but a very big challenge is that we still do too much with passwords and have no MFA in place. And we are still horribly weak when it comes on average. So most of you probably listening already have done everything, but we need to get better on that. Multi-factor authentication is really a very important measure, and we need to think about getting rid of passwords. When I talk with customers and discussion comes up on how can we improve the handling of passwords, my main comment is don't focus that much on improving that. That might be necessary, and it might be necessary for many years. But strategically seen, your emphasis should be on passwordless. Go passwordless. At least go MFA. We have this bring your own device challenge. I already touched it. And we have these open networks. So it's communication starts in a probably rather unsecure Wi-Fi at home, goes through the web or the internet, and it ends somewhere in your organization. And there are SaaS services, etc. So it's less control. And that is also what comes in with zero trust. So work from home and zero trust are very tightly related when it comes to these aspects. We have less control. And when we look at this in a very simple picture, we have the user who comes in using a device over a network to an application. So if it's SaaS, we not even have the system below. We only see the application, and there's data. And where do we have how much control? We have control about the user identity. And that is also something we can solve quite well. Technology is here. For the device, it's more tricky because if it's the corporate-owned device, we might get some good grip on it. If not, then not. We have the network, which is hard to control. We're lucky when we can get some information about the network to understand how secure or insecure it has been. But we probably better assume that this is not a secure part. Clearly, we can encrypt on top of it, but that's it. And yes, we can use VPNs. We can use other types of cloud-based sort of virtual networks, stuff like that. Question always is how well does it fit to the working reality of users? So passing from a device that sits at home through your corporate network and out again to a SaaS service via an VPN might not be the most logical way to do it. We get a grip on the applications, and we could get a grip on the data. We are not good here, but we could. So this is something we can do even while we are not yet here. When we then look at cybersecurity, there are, from my perspective, 5 very important premises and actions also we need them to take. The first premise is you are a target. Yes, everyone is a target. And never assume that no one is interested in attacking you. These attacks are widespread. They attack everything. And there's no perfect security. So we need to take different measures, and we need to prepare for being breached. Resilience, the ability to recover, is essential. Go for zero trust. Don't trust a single device. Plan for the worst. I already touched it. At the end, assume breach, assume you're attacked, and think about what does it mean and how can you react. And everything goes beyond tools. It is not just tools. And in a tools choice workshop we had yesterday, I said, maybe it's a good idea that you retire one tool for every new tool in cybersecurity you procure, because more tools doesn't necessarily make things better. You need to understand how these align, look at the portfolio, but also look at the processes, the organization, and the policies. So from that, what are key topics? And this is a little bit repetitive, but I'd like to sum it up. So the key topic today in the age of work from home, in the age of really fundamentally changing approaches on dealing with cybersecurity. The number one thing is build on a zero trust concept, implement it, look at what does it mean, what does it change, and go for work from home readiness. So you need a strategy and you need to be ready for that latest now. You should go beyond theme, revisit your security operations center. So where does your security operations center stand today? Is it really more a traditional theme center, or is it something where you have well thought out use of managed services, where you use automation and can respond, where you orchestrate across different services? Optimize your tools landscape. I already touched this. So don't go for more tools and more tools and more tools. Think about which tools really help you in mitigating which risks, and then figure out where to spend your money. What helps most? Educate your team. There's no way to avoid security awareness training. And security awareness training needs to be lean. And so better do a 5-minute training regularly with interesting content people understand than putting them all in a room for a full day. Doesn't make sense. Do it in a way also which starts with the everyday challenges of all of your employees. So they are threatened also in their private life. And that's the best starting point, because that's what everyone easily understands. And at the end, work on an approach, I've already touched this, that keeps your business alive. And if I would have to name one thing where to start, then it would be that one. MFA, multi-factor authentication. It's the number one thing to do, because it really mitigates a significant part of the risk of phishing attacks. If you have more than one factor, standard phishing for passwords doesn't work that way anymore. There's still ways to do phishing, but they are far more complex. And so you really increase your security. And so if you haven't multi-factor authentication turned on as a standard, do it. It's not rocket science anymore. It's built in so many solutions. There are so many vendors out here which deliver very strong MFA solutions. You can get them from the cloud. You can get everything really quickly. And go to the launches. Look at the sponsors, for instance, of this event. You will find a couple of them which really can support you here well. So go for multi-factor authentication. Start with standard capabilities, and there are in the Microsoft solutions, in the Google solutions. Add what you need. Look that you got this FIDO standard support, which allows to interact with the devices, also with biometric authentication, etc. And if you switch it on, inform your users ahead, because it changes things. And so you need to test it a little, you need to blend it a little, but it's really not super complex. You can turn it on fast. And as I've said, you will find everything today readily available on the market. It's not a rocket science. And so there's no reason that, and I've heard numbers that MFA usage still is in the 15 to 20% range of organizations. And we should be at the 80 to 90% range. So if you haven't switched it on, do it now. AI and ML might help, but it's really not the holy grail. So you need to be careful, and then you can really benefit from it. And you can do a lot of things. You can detect anomalies. You can get decision support, so identifying the right information, searching for information in a far more efficient way. Solutions that even help you understanding text, that identify the threats. So all threat intelligence today builds on AI technology, which can do user behavior analytics. So where are the outliers? Where are things happening you don't expect to happen? Analyzing threats, automated reaction, all that increasingly builds on what commonly is called AI and ML. So have a look at these technologies. They can make you better. But also be a little bit careful regarding all that buzzword bingo around it. And when you then look at all these requirements, all these changes, again, it is that you need to think about what at the end of the day is what I really need. So out of these many, many different areas of cybersecurity, and it's a big beast to tame, you need to understand what really helps. I've touched this already a couple of times already in my talk today. So what you really should do is understanding which of these areas help you best. You can't do everything at the same time. You probably will not even need everything, but you will need a lot of technologies, and you need to understand their impact. So you can use technologies such as, and we do this in our portfolio compass, in our approach for portfolio optimization. You can look at, for instance, comparing different technologies across dimensions such as cost, risk mitigation, feasibility, time to production, etc., and then understand how sort of technologies that promise doing the same thing, mitigating the same risk, help. And you also then can compare technologies in metrics, as for instance, risk mitigation impact versus total cost of ownership. And so upper right edge, high impact, low cost, ideal. Lower left edge doesn't help much but costs a lot, doesn't make that much sense. And then you can optimize. Do these exercises. I don't go into detail in the interest of time here. What I want to tell you today, or what I try to tell you today, is we need to rethink security. Zero trust and work from home require new approaches for cybersecurity, and you need to adapt. Innovations help in doing so. And you need to understand what you really need out of all these things you could have. And that also means you need to regularly review your cybersecurity strategy and your tools landscape. Do it because the world is moving fast. And that's what I'd like to bring to you as an opening keynote. Thank you.